Lucifer, the fallen angel, the untold story. Before the world knew sin, before the fall of man, there was another fall, the fall of an angel who was once the brightest among the heavenly host, the bearer of light, but who would become the prince of darkness. His name was Lucifer. In the beginning, Lucifer was vastly different from the malevolent figure we know today. His name, meaning morning star, from the Latin Lucifer, meaning light bringer, signified his radiant nature as a magnificent archangel. He was one of the most glorious and powerful beings created by God, shining among the angels with his wisdom and beauty. Before the existence of darkness or evil, Lucifer was devoted entirely to the service of divine light. It is said that he stood near God's throne, leading celestial hymns of praise as a cherubim, one of the highest-ranking angels. Everything was in perfect harmony, and Lucifer, with the most resplendent voice in the chorus of creation, exalted the Creator. Visual suggestion: a breathtaking depiction of the celestial realm. Golden clouds stretching infinitely under a luminous sky. At the center, Lucifer appears as a radiant, youthful angel with a glowing halo, dressed in a magnificent white and gold robe. His majestic wings shimmer with divine brilliance, reflecting the heavenly light. Surrounding him, other winged angels gaze at him in admiration, while he stands bathed in beams of pure light, shining like a celestial star. A subtle yet profound transformation began within the radiant angel of heaven. As Lucifer gazed upon his own beauty and power, the seed of pride took root in his heart. The praises he once devoted to God slowly shifted into admiration for his own greatness. A dark whisper echoed within him. How can I, such a magnificent being, be content with mere servitude? According to legend, his perfection led him to arrogance, just as it is written, "You were perfect, until iniquity was found in you." Ezekiel 28:15. A fracture formed in Lucifer's heart. Light began to yield to shadows. His inner voice urged him to reject the divine order, refusing to be just another servant. Consumed by his own grandeur, he dared to imagine the impossible, seizing the throne of God. In his mind, he repeated the proud words recorded in Isaiah, "I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High." With these thoughts, Lucifer stepped into a night that darkened the light within him. The bright morning star now carried the night within his soul. Once the most beloved in heaven, he was now being drawn toward a fateful crossroads that would seal his destiny. Lord of Light had felt the first winds of the approaching storm. The spark of pride that ignited in Lucifer's heart had not remained hidden in the realm of heaven. According to legend, God observed this change within his beloved angel with mercy, and sent a divine warning to turn him away from disaster. Perhaps a powerful voice echoed through the halls of heaven saying, "O bright one, beware. Pride can extinguish even the brightest star." With this warning, a wave of unease spread among the heavenly angels. Archangel Michael and the other faithful angels looked at Lucifer with concern, stepping forward as if to protect their friend from the approaching danger. With infinite patience and love, God granted Lucifer the opportunity to make his own choice. Like a father gently advising his rebellious child, he perhaps whispered from the depths of the universe, "Turn back while the path is still open. Do not surrender your light to darkness." A sense of anticipation reigned over every corner of heaven. All created beings wondered how Lucifer would respond to this warning. The divine admonition hung in the air, and the angels held their breath. After the divine warning, time seemed to stand still in heaven. God's mercy was infinite. Wanting to stop the darkness within Lucifer before he fell into the abyss, he offered him a second chance. According to legend, God spoke to Lucifer as a father speaks to his child. Perhaps a warm voice from the celestial throne said, "I still love you. Repent and return to the light. Your place in heaven is still waiting." These words resonated through every corner of heaven. Every angel bore witness to the greatness of God's compassion. Lucifer, however, was torn in an inner conflict. For a brief moment, a spark of his old radiance and loyalty flickered in his eyes. Pride and longing for God's love clashed within him. Silence reigned in the halls of heaven as all awaited his response. The weight of this second chance pressed upon Lucifer's shoulders. Perhaps he trembled, lowered his head for an instant, struggling with his inner voice. But alas, a heart in which pride has taken root is hard to turn back. Slowly Lucifer lifted his head, not with a plea for mercy, but with the cold certainty of his decision. God's outstretched hand remained suspended in the air. Instead of reaching for it, Lucifer turned away. A sigh seemed to echo through the depths of heaven, the sorrow of rejected mercy. The great revelation was one of the turning points in the history of heaven. According to some accounts, God decided to reveal an ancient secret to all creation during this time. In the magnificent hall where the angels had gathered, a proclamation echoed from the throne of divine light. God announced his grand plan, perhaps the creation of humanity, or the exaltation of his only begotten Son, the Word. As described in John Milton's epic poem, Paradise Lost, when God declared his Son as the Lord of the universe and the ruler over all angels, the balance in heaven shifted. For the loyal angels, this revelation was met with joy and reverence. Celestial hymns rose through the heavens. But at that very moment, within Lucifer, an irreversible storm began to brew. Among the billions of radiant beings kneeling before the throne, Lucifer lifted his head, his cold gaze fixed on the divine proclamation. The fire of jealousy within him had become uncontrollable. Why him and not me? The thought echoed through his mind. The exaltation of God's Son was the final blow. Having once rejected even the second chance offered to him, the proud angel was now preparing to openly defy the divine plan. As every corner of heaven shone with the glory of God, a deep shadow formed where Lucifer stood, a harbinger of the storm to come. The great revelation had also ignited the flames of the great rebellion. There was no turning back now. Heaven's brightest angel had surrendered to the darkness within him and mustered the courage to openly defy God. The once pure voice, which had once sung praises to the Creator, had now transformed into a cry of rage and rebellion, shaking the very halls of heaven. Before the astonished gazes of the angels, Lucifer stepped forward and thundered, "I will not serve. I will establish my own throne above the stars and take the place of the Most High." As these words echoed through the vaults of heaven, it was as if the very foundations of the cosmos trembled. Such defiance against the glory of God was unthinkable, yet Lucifer had dared to do it. The angels looked around in horror. Some could not comprehend what they had just witnessed, while others recoiled in fear. Lucifer's eyes burned with unwavering resolve, his face a mixture of anger and sorrow. His own words seemed like a prophecy sealing his fate as he stood before God, his sharp gaze locked onto the divine light. Then his voice rang out once more. Darkness has its own light, and I will lead it. For the first time in heaven's history, pride had taken such a bold and defiant form. A cold silence filled the celestial palaces. The angels forgot to breathe. For a fleeting moment, time stood still. Lucifer and God's will faced each other, while the cosmos bore witness to the most decisive moment in its fate. In response to Lucifer's audacious defiance, Archangel Michael stepped forward. His very name, who is like God, was now a challenge he had to uphold. As Lucifer's words sent shockwaves through the heavens, Michael strode forward with unwavering courage, standing face to face with the rebellious angel. A sword flashing like lightning appeared in Michael's hand, and his expression bore both sorrow and resolve. His powerful voice echoed through the celestial halls. Who can be like God? Come to your senses, brother. These words were both a warning to Lucifer and a call to the hesitant angels. Lucifer met Michael's intervention with a mocking smile. As the two mighty angels stood against each other, waves of energy seemed to clash around them. Michael, ever the faithful servant of God, raised his hand and thundered, "Enough!" At his cry, the divine power that filled the celestial palaces manifested itself. In that moment, the lines were drawn. Some angels found courage in Michael's words, while others were drawn into Lucifer's influence. Michael, shining like the dawn, stood as a barrier before Lucifer, as if to declare, "You shall go no further." The confrontation of two former friends, now enemies, was an unprecedented moment in heaven's history. Michael's wings radiated a comforting light, while Lucifer's wings cast dark, shadowy tendrils like smoke. All of heaven's angels watched, transfixed. The guardian of divine order and the leader of the rebellion were about to clash, and this moment would be the first lightning strike in the storm of rebellion about to erupt in heaven. With Michael's intervention, the delicate balance of heaven was disrupted, and the sides began to divide. The beginning of the rebellion first surfaced as whispers, then erupted into shouts. Lucifer, his voice thunderous, turned to the angels watching him and declared, "We will not bow to a system that does not give us the honor we deserve. Let us build our own kingdom." This call resonated in the hearts of some angels. While many hesitated in fear, others began to gather around Lucifer. The first shadow that had appeared in the skies was now growing into a storm. As chaos spread through the halls of heaven, Michael and the loyal angels closed their ranks. On one side stood the warriors of light, on the other, the rebellious angels who had aligned with Lucifer. For the first time, conflict was born within the hearts of the celestial beings. Brother now stood against brother. The first sparks of rebellion may have been marked not by battle, but by tears falling onto the marble floors of heaven, as those who followed Lucifer felt the pain of leaving behind their former companions. According to legend, a third of the angels joined Lucifer's cause. This created a massive rift in the ranks of heaven's army. The angels who sided with Lucifer, now fallen angels or demons, took flight with a mixture of fury and sorrow. Yet Michael did not waver. No matter how vast the army before him, he knew that as long as God's light was with him, no darkness could prevail. Thus, for the first and only time in heaven's history, a war broke out. The golden streets of heaven echoed with the battle cries of angels, as earth and sky alike bore witness to this cosmic division. The final war, unlike anything in the history of heaven, erupted. Michael, leading the loyal angels, clashed with Lucifer and his rebellious followers in the vast expanse of the heavens. This was a battle too grand to be perceived with mortal eyes. Light against darkness, humility against pride, order against chaos. The stars trembled, and the celestial vault shuddered, as blades of pure light clashed against spears of dark fire, sparks scattered in every direction. The cries of the angels echoed both as war cries and lamentations, for brother was fighting against brother. With the first strike, Lucifer and Michael locked into combat at the heart of the heavens. Each sore blow unleashed blinding bursts of light, while other angels engaged in their own duels. The battle was so fierce that, as written, there was no place found for them in heaven anymore. The rebels had become utterly estranged from the peace they once knew. John Milton, in Paradise Lost, describes this war as lasting 3 days. But in heaven, it was a battle beyond the constraints of time. John Milton, in Paradise Lost, describes this war as lasting 3 days. But in heaven, it was a battle beyond the constraints of time. Lucifer's rage and despair were felt in every moment of the war. With each fallen rebel, his fury and grief deepened. With each victorious loyal angel, Michael's faith grew stronger. The very colors of heaven seemed to blend together. Gold and silver light intertwined with deep crimson and midnight blue shadows. The heavenly armies clashed with all their might. Michael, drawing strength from God's power, fought with unwavering resolve, while Lucifer, consumed by his ambition and wrath, struck with a wild, desperate force. At last, after a long and grueling struggle, the tide began to turn in Michael's favor. Lucifer's army, overwhelmed by the sheer purity of divine light, began to falter. The once proud war cries of the rebels gave way to muffled, despairing screams. In the final moments of the war, Michael's sword shattered Lucifer's weapon, and the banner of the fallen angels collapsed. Heaven was now on the brink of reclaiming the peace it had fought for. But as the battlefield lay in exhaustion and sorrow, even victory could not erase the grief of losing a brother. As the smoke of war cleared, heaven had won. Lucifer's exile and fate were now inevitable. Once the brightest of the celestial host, Lucifer now knelt before God, a defeated rebel. His wings hung in broken pride, and his face was darkened by the agony of defeat. Surrounded by Michael and the faithful angels, all awaited the final command. The time for divine justice had come. At that moment, God's mighty voice filled the heavens, sorrowful yet resolute. The judgment was given. Lucifer and his followers would be cast out of heaven for eternity. Suddenly, a great rift, a gateway of fire and light, tore open in the sky. Michael, gazing upon his former friend one last time, bore both mercy and sorrow in his eyes. Then, raising his sword, he fulfilled the divine will and marked Lucifer for exile. A great force engulfed Lucifer and his fallen angels, as though an invisible storm had seized them. The Holy Scriptures describe this moment. The great dragon was cast down. The ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, was hurled to the earth with his angels. Indeed, Lucifer fell from the heavens like a bolt of lightning, as Jesus himself proclaimed, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Luke 10:18. The gates of heaven were now shut forever to Lucifer and the darkness he left behind. Lucifer would now be known as Satan, the adversary, the enemy of God. His destiny was sealed in darkness, forever deprived of divine light, awaiting his final reckoning before divine justice. The fallen angels, now demons, was scattered upon the earth, cast from the celestial realm. From this moment on, Lucifer's fate was no longer written in the heavens, but in the depths below. The morning star, once radiant, was now condemned to eternal night. As the armies of heaven mourned the bittersweet victory, Lucifer fell to the earth, his heart consumed with vengeance. Though he knew his end awaited in the lake of fire, Revelation 20:10, he would not surrender. Instead, he would seek to wreak havoc upon the Creator's works for as long as he could. For centuries, the fall of Lucifer has been an endless source of inspiration in art and popular culture. From literature to painting, music to cinema, the Lucifer figure has been reinterpreted in various ways. From the Middle Ages to the present day, artists have continued to explore the themes of pride, rebellion, and downfall through the story of this fallen angel.